that everything's in place for the fireside chat. So please welcome Linda Frum and Andrew and Jill Scheer.
All right. So Andrew and Jill, this is very exciting for us. I know that everybody in this room would like to thank you both for all your hard work and everything you have done to make this convention such a success. Merci beaucoup pour tout votre travail et tout ce que vous avez fait pour que ce congrès soit un tel succès. And to wrap up what has been an exciting and dynamic convention, we really appreciate you agreeing to sit down for this close-up and personal conversation. Those of us in this room who follow politics intensely, so that's everybody, understands that when a man or a woman takes on the role of party leader, the job isn't just about them, but it involves the commitment of the entire family. So Jill, to you, on behalf of the wider conservative family, thank you so much. Everybody understands the role of a political spouse is a very demanding one, and it's a role that really deserves our respect and our appreciation. So Andrew, I will ask you this question. What does it mean to you to have Jill not only as your life partner, but as your political partner?
It's the only way that this could be possible. And it wasn't an easy decision to run. As you can see, we've got a very young family, and the implications of this job are huge. And I want to thank everyone for all their support, and thanks for all your best wishes to us, because it is tough. And I have so much respect for anybody who makes these types of sacrifices, no matter what party they're in, because it is very difficult. And so we did come to the decision together. We had a few chats, and might have been after a couple of glasses of wine one evening that Jill finally
I think that's the one I said yes.
But you know, I wouldn't want to do it any other way. I don't think that you can have a good husband, a good father, and a good public official if you don't have that support. And I'd either be a bad leader if I didn't have the support of the family, and that wasn't working, and I'd be a bad husband or a bad father if I didn't as well. So it's essential to have that support at home. I think it's true for any profession, really, that requires a lot of that sacrifice, but I'm just so honored and blessed and just want to thank you.
Jill, earlier this summer, when the Me Too conversation was at its highest peak, I tweeted out how proud I was as a female member of Andrew's caucus to know that I worked with a man who had the utmost respect for his female colleagues. And actually what I wrote in my tweet was that while it's true Andrew Scheer will never stage a topless photo shoot, at least I don't think you ever will, I don't know.
That would clear the room so fast.
Okay, so I had that right. But I said his abundant and obvious respect for his female colleagues, and above all for his wife and his family, makes me proud to serve in his caucus. So, Jill, when I think about how proud I am, I want to ask you about Andrew's high character and how that makes you feel about him.
Absolutely, I'm proud of Andrew every day. I think a big thing for me is I'm just proud to be part of a party that has women in important, powerful roles, and they earned it just the way anybody else would earn that position. There's not a single woman in caucus or in shadow cabinet because it's 2018. Every woman there is there because she deserves to be there. And in terms of my pride for Andrew, he honestly treats me like with the utmost respect. Every decision that we make together, and I have veto over anything if I need to use it.
We also hear
she withholds royal assent from time to time.
And you say sorry a lot. We hear that as well. But
he starts out with sorry.
It's very obvious to anyone who looks at the two of you that you have a very deep and loving relationship. That your bond is very apparent to us all. Can you share with us what you think are the secrets for a strong marriage?
Yeah, you know, some of the old ones that everyone's heard. You know, never go to bed angry. You know, that's key. You know, to try to solve things before they fester or just kind of build up. We learned early on that it's all about communication, and you know, there's no sense in letting resentment build. If someone said something or did something that's you know, hurt someone's either our feelings, just kind of get it out of the way right away. One of the best pieces of advice we ever got when we were engaged from another couple was two things. It was kind of two sides of the same coin. It was make it easy. Be quick to say sorry if you need to. And then the flip side of that is make it easy for the other person to say sorry. And a lot of times, you know, when we have a fight, it's tempting to want to hold on to that anger. And if your spouse says, listen, I'm sorry, then okay, they've said sorry, they've addressed it, and try to be quick to forgive. And that's a big part of it, I think.
Yeah, and the other one we always do is we never, ever bring up an old fight. So once it's settled, and we just promised each other we'll never bring that thing up again. So, yeah, there's...
We don't have to deal with that, you know, back in 2008 when you said that.
Yeah. Once it's over, it's over.
I heard someone say recently that one secret is to never criticize your spouse. But do you ever ask for constructive criticism from Jill?
All the time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it started out early when, you know, Jill would say things like, you know, Andrew, you really should not just iron the fronts of your shirt, like you should iron.
Until like a year ago, he only ironed this.
Well, it was.
That's not a thing.
It's efficiency. It saves time.
I said, but what if you get hot? What if you get hot?
Like, I just keep my jacket on all day anyway.
No, he said his body warmth irons it.
Hey, Jill, these are our friends,
Sorry.
but we don't have to open up.
And he never makes the bed.
Well, if we didn't say earlier how glad we are that Jill's around, we're going to definitely focus on that now. How about it as parents? Obviously, the demands on your time are endless. You could be out 24/7. So how do you create some normalcy in your home with each other, but with your children too?
Well, we've turned our kids into night owls. So like even if Andrew gets home from an event at 9:30, he starts popping the popcorn and they all line up, all 5 kids and Andrew along the couch, and they watch a show together, or they have got a game going, but they always spend time together. And often, sometimes it is late, so we've taught them to stay up late with Andrew and sleep in.
That's right. Yeah, I think the key is when I'm home, I'm home. And I've heard from other people who've held these types of roles, and they said, you know, the worst thing that happens is your work creeps into your family side, and you really do have to draw, you know, big red circles around your home time. And so my staff know that if we booked a personal day, barring an emergency that needs to be dealt with right away, you know, things have to wait, because it's not fair to the kids to say, okay, we're going to go to the park now, or we're going to go see this, and then I'm on my phone all afternoon. So that's a big part of it too. Obviously FaceTime, we do a lot of that. And where we can, and as you can see in some of the pictures, when we can bring the kids along too and show them one of the great things that comes with this job is getting to discover so much of Canada, so many parts of Canada. So that's a big part of staying together as well.
It is often said that political discourse is more toxic and corrosive than it's ever been. I'm wondering if you think that's a true thing historically, and if that is true, how do you two shield your family from the harsher elements of politics? And Andrew, how do you potentially shield Jill, or invite Jill? How do you shield Andrew?
Yeah. Well, we've, I think with social media, it's brought in a whole new aspect that people sort of feel brave to criticize, and we want to protect our kids and each other from that. Although you don't mind scrolling through it, it's me who's got a thin skin, but our kids haven't asked for any of that social media type stuff yet, but we are probably getting there. They're approaching their teen years, and we're going to have to come up with a strategy for that, but until then we'll keep them as sheltered as possible.
Yeah, I think it has become very negative, and I think that some forms of social media make it easier to kind of be anonymous and just say things you would never say to each other in person. You know, I've got lots of family members who I disagree with. I've got friends I've gone to high school with, and we disagree on a lot of things. And I wouldn't, you know, if we ever had a discussion, I wouldn't, you know, question the legitimacy of their birth and, you know, their mental competence and things like that. But on Twitter, you get that all the time. You know, just for saying something that is a well thought out position that your party has, you get all that back. So I try to ignore all of that. It is difficult. I do find myself kind of scrolling through, and my staff want me to just, you know, not do that anymore. But yeah, I worry about the ability for issues to be talked about in a way where people can have a difference of opinion or ask legitimate questions. And, you know, we see the debate becoming polarized on things that, you know, you wouldn't have thought 10 or 15 years ago that it would evoke this type of reaction. And, you know, not to get all political again, but, you know, calling Ontario cabinet ministers un-Canadian and calling Lisa Raitt a Neanderthal when the left really comes out with this vitriolic language because we dare to have a different perspective on things. It is worrisome for how that debate's going to be carried out.
Right, because I was going to ask you if that social media atmosphere leaches into the political arena, you know, into the House of Commons, into your ability to have good relationships with people across the aisle.
It can, for sure. And when I was speaker, I really did, you know, try to encourage people to, you know, debate the issue. We have lots of things of substance to say, and when people come from different political parties in different parts of the country, different experiences, they believe that their idea, their proposal will be better for Canada. They're wrong, ours are, but treat them with that respect and convince them that they're wrong, or convince Canadians that they're wrong and you're right, but let's leave the personal stuff alone. And that's why when you do have, you know, Bill Morneau calling Lisa Raitt a Neanderthal, it's just, you know, it's unbecoming of a government minister, but it is reflective of a mindset that left-wing parties and left-wing politicians are adopting more and more.
Jill, one of the great pleasures of political life is the opportunity it gives us to help others. This morning we saw a video about your nephew Lincoln, but because everyone didn't see it, I think we're actually going to be able to show it again. Okay. And we'll look at it and then we can talk about it right after, if that's all teed up.
Good job.
I'll never forget the day Lincoln got sick. He was my sister's youngest, at the time a beautiful, healthy 3-year-old. My sister Erica and I are extremely close. Between us, we have 9 kids. We live a block apart from each other, and we're constantly at each other's houses. The day Lincoln got sick, our world turned upside down. What started as a routine doctor's appointment for paleness and bruising turned into every parent's worst nightmare. Lincoln had a severe case of aplastic anemia. A virus had shut down his bone marrow. He wasn't producing red cells, white cells, or platelets. A simple cold or cut could kill him. If you're a parent, you know what it is to feel powerless sometimes when it comes to your kids. Waiting for a donor is a special kind of helplessness. Watching my amazing sister and her husband go through that was so difficult. Any of us would have given anything we had to save Lincoln, but none of us could. So we did what any family would do if they're waiting for a miracle. We had hospital room dance parties. Uncle Andrew found a way to get Lincoln to take his terrible tasting medication, and Henry shaved his head in solidarity. And we prayed that out there, somewhere, there was a match for Lincoln. After weeks of blood transfusions, waiting and praying, we got the call we'd been waiting for. Lincoln had a match. One match in the world. Not only a compatible donor, but a perfect 10 out of 10 match. On September 21st, 2016, Lincoln received his life-saving transplant. Because of this generous stranger, we have our boy back, our beautiful, healthy 5-year-old. I often wonder what would have happened if this anonymous donor hadn't taken the time to register. We think about this angel every day. So how do you thank a stranger for saving your loved one's life? This is how I do it, by telling Lincoln's story. So maybe you'll consider being a donor. If you're between the ages of 17 and 35, you can register. Go to onematch.ca to find out how you can be a miracle to another family, just like ours.
Well, that is truly a beautiful and remarkable story. So do you want to tell us more about One Match and the work that you do with them?
Yeah, One Match is the Canadian Bone Marrow Registry, and if you're between the ages of 17 and 35, you can go to onematch.ca and order a kit, and it's just 2 Q-tips, and you rub the inside of your cheek, and you mail it back, and you can be on the list to become a donor. Your chances of being called are about 1 in 500, and you could save someone's life, like my boy Lincoln.
Okay, I'm going to ask Andrew this question in English, and he's going to answer it in maybe both languages for us. Andrew, you've been involved in politics really all your adult life. You became an MP in 2004 at the age of 25. Can you tell us who was the person or the people in your life who most motivated or inspired you to become involved with public service?
That's a very good question. I was interested in politics at a very young age. I guess it was just because, my dad worked at a newspaper in Ottawa, and so current affairs were always the topic of supper table conversation. And I always had a bit of a problem with authority. And I think my dad instilled in me at a young age that in Canada, you get to have a say. And he would often say, decisions are made by those who show up. And whether it's at a PTA meeting or a school board meeting or a union meeting or a political convention, if you show up at a meeting, you get to decide things. And that's what got me involved. Et après ça, j'étais très très jeune, mais j'ai vu les pays de l'Europe en Est quitter le système de communisme et adopter la démocratie. Et ça, c'était tellement inspirant de voir les gens qui travaillent très très fort pour les générations, d'avoir les mêmes choses qu'on a ici au Canada. I watched the fall of communism across Eastern Europe when I was 9, 10, 11 years old, and that was very inspirational to watch people who had fought so hard for the things that we had here. And I guess that always just inspired me to stay involved so we can protect what so many people around the world yearn for here in Canada.
Some 9-year-olds watch the Smurfs, but Andrew's always been interested in politics all his life, so it was a perfect job.
But how about you, Jill? Because you also have a life of public service, as we're saying. You are Andrew's partner. You do everything together. So who inspired you?
I actually think back sometimes to our childhoods, and Andrew would have been across the country talking politics around the kitchen table, and my family would have been around the kitchen table talking about football. But I'd say that my parents prepared me for this life. They both have service hearts. My dad worked with at-risk youth from the time he was 18 till he passed away at 54, and my mom, she's devoted her whole life to volunteer work. My mom volunteers probably 60 hours a week, and that's all day and night. That's what she does. So she raised us with that heart for public service.
Okay, well, speaking of your family, Jill, you not only have a very accomplished husband, but you also have a very well-known brother, former Seahawk and now Buffalo Bill kicker, John Ryan.
Go Bills.
So I presume you grew up in a sporty family, and I was wondering if that's what attracted you to Andrew. No. No, what I really wanted to ask you was...
I did play quite a few sports.
Okay, good. What about the kids? What do they follow? They follow politics or football? What intrigues them more?
Whichever's on TV, they like to be with us, so they just watch whatever's on. But I think they've developed an interest in both. They've learned at early ages things that are injustices, and so that has got them into politics, and they enjoy the Sunday afternoons hanging out with us watching football. So I'd say they're into both.
We play a lot of sports. We've got so many kids that we can play a lot of backyard baseball and football with the cousins. But it really is different. My oldest son is very, very intellectual, and he's very, very keen on learning things. He just decided the other day that we were talking about which languages were hardest to learn. And I said, I always thought that languages that you had to learn a new alphabet would be an extra level of difficulty up. So we started talking about different alphabet. Anyway, but by supper time, he had taught himself the Greek alphabet, and he's 13 years old. So I thought, well, that's a good sign. But then we'll sit down and watch a playoff game or a hockey game, go out and play catch in the backyard as well. Alors, je pense que pour tous mes enfants, je pense qu'il y a un bon mélange. Mes filles sont très athlétiques. Our daughter Grace is into rock climbing. She's super fast. She likes playing baseball as well.
Does parkour all over the place.
Yeah. And Henry's just a big tank. He's going to do very well in sports. He's got a.
We have a game that we play in our backyard, and it's called Henry Ball. It started out as normal baseball, but Andrew had to change the rules so many times to accommodate Henry that he's
the youngest boy.
Yeah, so we just called it Henry Ball.
He gets 6 strikes. He's always
he
safe.
Can't get out. Yeah.
All right. Well, I imagine after this long, busy weekend, including it's been your anniversary weekend as well. So once again, happy anniversary. I'm sure your kids are much on your mind and you miss them very much. But just to help us understand and get to know your family better, maybe you could give us a little bit of a description about each of the kids.
Okay.
Thomas is our oldest. He's 13, and he is very intellectual. He's actually right now, we wish he was teaching himself French, but he's teaching himself Norwegian. For whatever reason, I don't know, we found an app to learn languages, and he can...
Mais on va assurer qu'elle apprend en français parce que c'est essentiel.
We're pushing the French.
Un avantage de déménager à Ottawa, c'est que nos enfants maintenant ont l'opportunité d'apprendre français. Et c'est merveilleux pour chacun il a commencé et on va assurer qu'il continue. He's also got a very quick wit. He's hilarious. We started watching classic movies together, and we were watching Fiddler on the Roof, which is a great family show. Yeah, fantastic movie. And there's this scene where the main character was out celebrating with making an arrangement for one of his daughters to be married, and they were celebrating with some vodka. And the next scene is him waking up in the morning. He's got a massive headache, and he's kind of and his wife's yelling at him, and he's moving around. And my kids, one of my daughters said, "What's wrong with Tevyev? Is he sick? Is he sick?" And I said, "Well, sometimes if you drink a little bit too much one night, then the next morning, you have a headache, you'll feel kind of sick." And I started explaining all this, and my son was just looking at me. He was maybe 11 at the time with a twinkle in his eyes, and he said, "Dad, how would you know?" I'll watch that. So that's Thomas.
Yeah.
Grace?
Grace is an animal lover to the
Yes.
core. She even likes like worms and beetles.
Yeah, bugs and
She once had a pet
dogs.
salamander for like a day and a half.
But she's an entrepreneur. Elle a commencé une petite entreprise. She started her own small business, Grace's Dog Walking Service.
She even has lawn signs. She actually does.
Yeah.
And door knockers.
Yeah. And Madeline is just always joyful. She's into all the typical things that a 9-year-old would be into. She loves stuffed animals and
glittery t-shirts.
Glittery t-shirts and that. But she's just always really joyful. She's always in a good mood, always very silly. And yeah, so.
That's Maddie.
Henry?
Henry.
Henry is a lot of work. But he's
you know what? Henry's empathetic and always
Yeah.
has been. He can see from a mile away if you're not having a good day, and he knows exactly what to do. He's
Yeah, I didn't mean a lot of work in a negative way. He's just got so much energy. He's like a bouncy ball. He's just always bopping along and wanting to be really active. And he's the type of kid that if we're sitting down on the couch watching TV, he would never just sit beside us. He would like jump on us. And
some of the guys here have probably been wrestled to the ground of Stornoway by Henry.
yes, I think some of my colleagues.
Raise your hand if you've been wrestled to the ground by Henry.
And Mary's 2.5, so she already has some indications. Elle a déjà des caractéristiques de son propre personnalité. She's the boss. She's the center of gravity that everything moves around right now. She's very, very, very strong-willed, and that's very true.
Spunky as all get out.
Yeah.
And she
But
was named
cute.
for your mother.
She was, yeah. yeah, she was named after my mom, Mary, and thankfully they got to know each other a little bit. How old would she have been? Just
1.5.
1.5. And someone did tease me a little bit. They said, you know, you waited till your 5th child before you honored your mom. But thought, well, never too late. So.
All right, you two. Well, listen, we are so appreciative and grateful to you for talking to us in such a personal way this afternoon. Thank you so much. And thank you for everything that the two of you are doing, and Jill, and particularly you and the children, the sacrifices that you are making to make our Conservative Party strong, to make Andrew the next Prime Minister of Canada in 2019.
Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup, tout le monde. Merci.
Got to make sure they go up back. Thank you, Jill and Anne.